Welcome to If Only You Knew, where each week we take a deep dive into the careers and experiences of people from different backgrounds, cultures, countries and ages to discuss pivotal moments in their lives and the lessons they have learnt along the way.
If they told people the truth, they wouldn't last very long.
Whether you're a school student in an established career, mapping your academic pathway, searching for the perfect career, looking to change careers, or just plain curious, then this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Christy McCormack, and I want to ask you, what would you do differently if only you knew? With me today is Ben Sinclair. Ben has experienced many setbacks, from not fulfilling his aspiration of becoming an AFL footballer to a work injury ending his trade and football career, as well as an unsuccessful application on a life-changing television program. But to speak to Ben, you would never know he's experienced any adversity, which is why I'm excited to hear Ben tell his story of broken dreams to a successful life. Welcome, Ben, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Christy. I appreciate you letting me come on your show.
Okay, so let's start with AFL. But first, I wanted to give some context to our international listeners. AFL is short for Australian Football League, an extremely popular sport here in Australia. There's over 26,000 AFL clubs with more than 1.4 million Australians playing the sport. So it's quite a big deal in Australia, and even more so where Ben lives in Melbourne. So how old were you when you started playing AFL?
So I was 5 years old when I started playing in the Little Leagues out in Eltham, which is a suburb in Victoria. And yeah, it was something that all my friends did. So basically, to pick up a footy and you go out and you kick in the schoolyard or the kindergarten yard, and off I went to play at the local team.
So you aspired to play professionally. When did you sort of make that decision?
Well, as a young kid, my dad and my grandpa were right into the game, and they used to take me along to all the professional football games at the MCG, which is the Melbourne Cricket Ground, which is the iconic stadium in Victoria. And I guess I went week in, week out from about 5 years old till I still go now. So yeah, I always wanted to play on that ground with in the big league. I mean, that was definitely an aspiration of mine from a young age.
So you wanted to be an AFL star, but did you have a backup plan, or was it just that's all you wanted to be and that's what you wanted to achieve?
Yeah, so from the time I started playing, it was all I really wanted to do growing up, and I was fortunate enough to have the ability to play at top level from a young age in the younger leagues. So it was a dream right up until I was about 20 or so, and I didn't really have a backup plan. It was just footy. So that was my main focus, and I didn't really think about anything else. No.
So you went to quite an exclusive private boys' school. So was this just in your senior years, or did you spend all your schooling years there?
So from year 7, which is what they have in Melbourne, year 7 to 10, I went to just a public school, and the year 11 and 12 was my senior education. And I was lucky enough to get a scholarship there, and the scholarship was hard, it was called General Excellence, but it was basically for sporting ability. And yeah, it was a really big influence in shaping, my mindset, and had a major influence in my later years of schooling.
So I imagine, obviously, having a sports scholarship, this school would have pushed you quite hard with your sport. But how did they support you academically?
Yeah, they were. So from a transition from a public school system to a private school system, I found that I was really supported. I had a lot of people there really helping me, not just with my sporting aspirations, but trying to set me up as a man. It was an all boys school actually, so it was quite different. It was more of setting you up as to challenge the real world as a man, and give you options and connections moving forward. So I found it, it was a great final 2 years of my schooling. I definitely appreciated the support they gave us.
So did you have any, you obviously wanted to be a footballer until sort of things changed around 20. So when you're at high school, did they support you in sort of having a backup plan or going down a separate path?
Yeah, look, they did give me, options, and we had a person who would, I can't remember the name of them, a career coordinator or something that gave you some direction. But my focus was always just football, and like I said, up until the end of school, there was really no other thought in my head. That was just I was going to play football, and looking back now, like it was. They gave me every opportunity to look other ways, but I just didn't know. I just had no idea. It was just football, and that was it at that stage. So.
And so how supportive were your parents of that?
Yeah, look, I was playing the top leagues. It was, I guess it was like, your parents push you to your strengths, and at that time I was very close. I was in the rep teams, the state teams. I wasn't far off, talking to AFL clubs and things like that. So it was close enough to really making the big time. So really the support there was, Ben's gonna be close and try and make it. But my parents were just supporting what I wanted to do, I guess. And as a young man, sometimes you just don't know where you're going to go at 17, 18 years old. You just follow your dreams. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So you left school, and what happened when you left school? What was your path straight out of high school?
Yeah, so straight out of high school, the under 18s year, I unfortunately didn't make the AFL, but I went on to play VFL for a couple of years. And in that time, I didn't really, I was sick of studying. I wasn't really a good studier back then, and I didn't really, wasn't into, books and, reading and things like that. I just sort of got through high school and just got the enter score to finish off. So my focus was, maybe I'll go into something to do with sports, but the training schedule in the VFL was pretty much 5 days a week. So on the side, I just did some labour, just labouring and carpentry. My dad was a builder, so I just worked for a bit of cash, and it was good to have a bit of cash on the side and do football. So that was my focus from about 18 to 20, yeah.
So did you go on to do a full trade, or how did that pan out?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough just to sign up as an apprentice carpenter, but I never thought that that's what I wanted to do my whole life. So I just wanted to get that as maybe a backup plan if anything happened. And from the day dot, I never really was passionate about it. It was just something that I did that paid money while I was playing football. And that sort of was where I just ended up going from 18 to 20, 21. So
you worked on construction sites for a few years. So how did you find that experience? Because construction sites have changed a little bit now to what they sort of used to be like. So how did you find that as a young person coming out of school, going onto a construction site with adults?
Yeah, I say, well, there was definitely good times and there was bad times. I had, I guess we're looking back more than 12 years now. I worked for a boss who was very, very hard, old school, and then I worked on some construction sites where there was a lot of people who were, I guess that they were the typical, typical tradies that, might not have had the best upbringing and things like that. So you get a whole mix of people on these building sites, and I guess it sort of strengthened me as it gave me an experience of what hard work was and different types of people, So I'd come from a school where there was a lot of kids that ended up being tradies and things like that. And then I went to a school where a lot of people ended up being doctors. So I sort of had that experience beforehand. And the building sites were very, at that time, which is 12 years ago, we've got to remember a lot has changed. There was good times and there was bad times.
So do you think being able to deal with all those different types of people in your younger years has helped you now with your career?
Yeah, 100%. I know now I've got a background now and experience in life where I can deal with all types of people from having that younger experience when, I was pushed around as an apprentice, and told where to go and pushed really, really hard. And from a young age, it's like going through a boot camp pretty much in your apprenticeship. So I'm glad I did that because now I know what hard work is. But it's a great experience to have. And, sometimes you don't end up where you're going to be, but that experience back then was looking back, it was good for me, I think so.
So I mentioned earlier in your bio that an injury has derailed the plans that you had when you were, 18 to 20. What happened?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I had some really bad luck on a building site. I had a concrete nail ended up in my eye. I was probably about 22 at the time and just finished my apprenticeship and was thinking about, what's the next step. And just an ordinary day, went to work and I was standing about 2, 3, 4 meters away from someone who was hitting a nail into the ground, and it flicked up and got me square in the eye and partially blinded my right eye. So yeah, that stopped my footy career for about 12 months and stopped my working career, because the doctors and the medical advice was, if you go back to a building site and you're risking, if anything happens to the other eye, then you'll be pretty much blind. So that was the decision I had to make at the time. Was pretty hard because I couldn't play footy, couldn't go to work, so I was pretty lost.
So how did you end up dealing with that? Because that's something quite, big as a young person when you're just about, you finish your trade and you're just about to, to go down that path of this is where you're going to be. And then to have that stopped by somebody else. Did you have anger towards the person that had hammered that nail and towards the building site and your boss? And how did you cope with that emotionally?
I didn't have really anger. I thought it was unfair, and you have those times at the start where it's pretty emotional. But I think it was first of all, I was very conscious about the way I looked. I have, my right eye is just a little bit distorted. It looks like you couldn't really notice, but at the time I thought I looked really different. And then obviously there was the playing the footy thing. It was, it was hard for me because since I was 5 years old, I'd never not played football. So that was all taken away from me. And yeah, I never returned to playing footy after that because, I tried to play, and it was just that the problem is with when you lose sight in one eye, your judge of distance gets distorted a bit. So it's hard to play ball sports and things like that. But and just the risk of something happening to my other eye was too much. So decided to put the boots up and hang the boots up. And obviously with the trade, it was a life-changing experience. But looking back now, it actually shaped my life for the better. It made me stronger, and I went on to do bigger and better things. So yeah.
So talking about bigger and better things, what was your next move after recovering from your injury?
Yeah, so my grandfather has always had a major influence in my life. He was the one who helped me get into the private school. He really tried to push me when I was younger and gave me a lot of guidance. And he came to me and offered me to come and work for his hire and rental business, which is in Melbourne. And I basically went there. I never really interested in it, and I was, I thought, what would I want to do with trying to rent equipment? Like, it's not really my thing. And I came on as a sales role, and with a background of construction, I already knew pretty much all the products that we were trying to sell, and I never really thought I'd be any good at sales, but from day dot, I actually walked in there and I loved it. So he was a real major influence on that. And yeah, I started that probably about 6 months after the injury. It really helped me because it was a depressive state going from an injury, not doing anything, especially being around your house, just bored and recovering. I had to do something, and he was great. He was fantastic. So
do you think going into a family business after that sort of disappointment made you recover, I suppose, quicker, both emotionally and physically, than what you perhaps would have if you didn't have that opportunity?
Yeah, I guess so. It's hard to say. It definitely helped. I had support there. If I had been starting from scratch in something else that, I would have to go find a new career in somewhere that I didn't know, or go study somewhere else. I don't know, I still probably would have been lost, but that guidance really helped me. I'm really grateful that he reached out to me and said, just come here, see if you like it. If you don't, then, there's no worries. It's all good. And yeah, it was a life-changing experience, to be honest. So it was really great. And yeah, being a family business definitely did help at the time. Yeah.
So how many family members worked there at the time when you were there?
Yeah, so my grandfather, he worked there for the first 3 years I was there, and he sadly passed away. And then it was my auntie as well. So there was the three of us, and I think we had about 70 employees. So it was quite a big business in Melbourne. And yeah, it was a great time. And yeah, the three of us were working really well together. So.
Did you find any of the other employees treated you differently because you were part of the family?
No, I think in fact it was probably more pressure to, well, especially after I'd been there for a couple of years to perform and then be on my toes, to not seem like I was getting the special treatment. So I always made a point to be there, earlier and do the extra hard yards to make sure that I was seen as putting in. I guess as a family member, you don't want to be seen as from your colleagues as getting that special treatment, because they'll look at you. But I think I was always respected because I'd done that hard work in the trade, so I knew what hard work was. So yeah, I got actually respected by my colleagues, which was really good.
So you worked there for a few years and you made a really positive impact, but then you decided to leave. So how did that decision come about, and how difficult was that to make that decision?
Yeah, so I'd been there for about 7 or 8 years, I guess, and I needed a new challenge. I had a job offer from a friend of mine in the industry to come work at their business. He was actually leaving to go back to America, and he said, "Look, we think you're great, and we'd like you to run the business here." And I denied. I said, "I'm sorry, but pretty happy at the family business. Sorry, I'm not going to accept that offer." Which I look back now and I think maybe I should have. But fast forward a couple of years, I was sort of feeling like I wasn't really getting anywhere at my family's business. I thought that it was, I'd given them all I could, and there was no real place to grow there. I felt like it was, I'd reached the peak. Like my auntie was the managing director, and I'd be working under her, but this would be the same thing for the next 10 to 20 years, and I needed a bigger challenge. And yeah, the CEO actually reached out to me, that company that I was talking about before, and offered me another position, which is with a global company, and there was a lot of opportunity there. And I thought, look, I don't want to regret not taking that position again. And yeah, it was really hard to leave, but I thought, if it doesn't work out, if I leave on good terms, then I can always come back to the family business.
So it's really hard to leave any job, but especially, I suppose, one where your family is running the business. How hard was it to have that conversation with them that you wanted to leave and you wanted to move on to bigger things for your life?
It was extremely hard. It was extremely hard because I'm so close with my family, and that especially my grandfather died or passed away 3 years before, and it was sort of up to us to run the business. But yeah, it was a very, very hard decision. But still, I had to think about, well, what does my next 10 years look like? And yeah, it was probably the hardest decision I've ever made. But for professional growth, it needed to happen. And yeah, I look back now, I'm glad I did that. I got out of my comfort zone, and yeah.
And so how did they accept it? Were they a bit sort of put out by it at first, or did they sort of realise that you needed to move on?
I think they realised that, the company wasn't growing, so my growth wasn't there. And being in my late 20s at the time, it was something that I needed to do. So I needed to take an opportunity, and they understood, and I left on really good terms. So it was hard for, especially my auntie at the time. She was a bit upset, not in a bad way, just upset because I'd been there for so long and we worked on so many things together. But now it's great now. Like it's a move that was really good, and I still keep in contact with the business and keep an eye on things. But who knows, one day I might go back. But right now I'm pretty happy. So
I imagine she would have felt quite lost with you moving on, you sort of being, I suppose, her right-hand man and being somebody that she could bounce ideas off. So I'm glad that, you're still close with her, and I'm probably sure she hasn't been able to replace you, but gone on to, find other people to make that business still grow.
Yeah, no, and that's right, and they have, and yeah, it's sometimes you get thrown curveballs in business and life, and she had that problem, but yeah, like we still keep in contact weekly, so and we're still in the same industry, so it's fine now. It's just at the time it was a little bit tense at the start, and then it ended up being okay. So yeah.
So now she's basically still able to bounce ideas off you. She just doesn't have to pay you.
That's right. Yeah.
So you now work for a global software company, which is a massive shift from building sites and hire and rental, the core business, I suppose, of hire and rental. So you were approached to sort of work for them. So I understand why you sort of decided to make that move. But how has that changed your day-to-day life?
Yeah, it's quite a change. I've always been fascinated in technology, and I thought, but I never really thought it'd be my profession. I've always been interested in the latest stuff. Even though I'm a sporty kind of guy, I've always been into gadgets and things like that. And throughout the business, well, my family business, I was the one who looked after the software type of stuff, and it was just something that I was sort of at arm's length at. So the opportunity came, and looking where we are now in society, I thought it's an industry that's only going to get bigger and bigger, and to increase my skill set in that industry, in technology or software or whatever you want to call it, is probably a good idea for me, especially if I want to grow. And with a global company, the opportunities for working maybe overseas in either the UK or the US or Canada, where we have offices, it's an option now. And I never thought, from being a young guy that would be something I wanted to do. And now it's the opportunities are presenting themselves, and who knows, in a year's time, I might be in the UK working for the company or something like that. So it's something that never thought I'd do. I never even considered maybe 3 years ago, but now it's definitely it's changed my life. So it's great. It's working for a software company is totally different to a building site, but I enjoy it. It's good.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned that, you were approached to sort of, enter this business, and many of my previous guests have spoken of the importance of networks. So how did you go about building your networks with, such organizations, and how important do you feel networks are to your day-to-day life and your career prospects?
Yeah. So I read a book recently that your network is your net worth. And you've probably heard that saying before, but I wish I had known that when I was a young man, because I think it's one of the most important things that you can have, because if you're good to people and you look after your friends and your network, then you'll be rewarded with opportunity. And that happened because I put myself out there and was in the Hire and Rental Association and was managed to meet all the CEOs of different companies and kept in contact with them, and you know what, like, opportunities just present themselves. So your network is so important, and I think that tools like LinkedIn and networking events are really important to go to, because you just if you're an outgoing person and you've got you can be well liked because you're nice and you treat people with respect. People remember that, and I think one thing that I'm definitely going to teach my kids one day is keep your networks. Keep in contact with people, because not just because it might help you out in the future, but because you might be able to help them too. So it's really important. Yeah, networks.
So you've speaking about putting yourself out there. You applied to be on the Block TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And when I learned that about you, I was a bit surprised, because you're very personable, you're a lovely person, but I don't see you as that outgoing type. So what made you sort of apply for that?
Yeah. Well, it was just a bit of a joke. I think we were sitting around having a few beers with a few mates, and thought, liked the show. I think we're actually watching the show and said, why don't we try out for it? So yeah, we gave it a crack. We got the video together. We actually got through a few stages, I think, got the selection period, but unfortunately didn't make it on. But yeah, look, it started off as a bit of a joke, but I don't know. I thought I might as well give it a crack. I'm sort of one of those people who give anything a go. If it's something that it's out there and it's an opportunity, then yeah, why not just give it a go? So if you're not in it, you're not going to win it. Yeah, it was just something I tried.
Now, I saw the audition tape and I'm just amazed that you didn't get through because it was you and your mate who I believe was a firefighter, and the audition tape was absolutely fantastic. So, that's a loss to the block. But sort of speaking just to those that don't know what the block is, it's a TV show where people renovate either houses or apartments, and they have the opportunity to win a substantial amount of money because they win the difference between the reserve price and what the actual property sells for. So to miss out on that opportunity, were you disappointed with not being afforded the opportunity to get that amount of money?
Yeah, of course you're disappointed, but it's pretty hard to get on those shows. I guess in that season they had mostly celebrities on that show, so it was it's hard to get on. But it's one of those things you just you give it a go, you try. I think in my younger years too, when I was single man in my early 20s, I tried out for The Bachelor as well. So I tried Bachelorette. So I didn't get on that either. But I don't know, it was just a phase I was going through at the time, trying to get on these reality TV shows. But yeah, it's something you probably wouldn't pick if you spoke to me. But yeah, it was good fun. Who cares? It's you move on and your life goes a different way.
So do you find that you sort of benefited from those experiences by being able to sort of put yourself out there, not really make it, but still be able to learn from the experience?
Yeah, I think one thing that is really important is every failure is a success, because you learn from every experience. So if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not trying new things, then you're not growing. So that was part of the reason why I left my family's business, because I wasn't growing. I wasn't getting new skill sets. I was just doing the same thing day to day. So yeah, look, trying new things, trying stuff out is really, really important. Doing this podcast with you, it's fantastic. Trying something that's great. So I've always been sort of entrepreneurial minded and wanted to get out there and do more. And you don't know what that is until you just try it. So yeah, if that was getting onto the block, didn't make it, but you learn from it. You had the experience of creating the video, and you know how videos work and how you know how to audition and things like that. So yeah, it's just all experience.
So talking about learning more and I suppose challenging yourself, you've recently started an MBA. You're doing that with the Australian Institute of Business, and you started that, I believe, last year. So the MBA is obviously a really difficult course to do. What made you choose that course?
Well, believe it or not, Christy, you were part of that. I remember you finished your MBA, I think, was it 2018? 17, yes. And I was talking to you about that, and I never really thought about it or even considered doing an MBA. But when you told me about it and what you were doing, I thought, wow, that sounds so difficult, so hard. But, I looked into it and I thought, I really should have done a degree when I left school. I should have gone to university. I've been that type of person who was always, I felt like I always had the knack to do a degree or to go to university, but I just didn't because I was focused on playing football. So it's one of my, I don't have many regrets, but that's one of my regrets. I didn't do something like business at school, leaving school. So obviously you told me about it and I looked into it and I thought, well, stuff it, I'm going to give it a go. I haven't got kids, not married, so it's time to knuckle down before, those things happen. And I've got, a lot of other things I have to look after. So I just finished my eighth subject, so I've got 4 to go, or 3, and then I think the thesis. So it's been very challenging. My last subject was probably my hardest ever, which was financial management. But yeah, I'm actually loving it too at the same time because it's pushing me, and I've learnt so much. And again, my skill sets have just grown, and going from being a carpenter to doing an MBA is quite different. But it's probably the most challenging thing I've ever done, and definitely if you want to do it, you have to be prepared for it. So yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot of hard work, but I know that it certainly does pay off in the long run. But are you doing yours online or face to face, or do you do sort of a mix?
Yeah, it's mostly online, but there is parts where you can go and do face to face. But I actually like the online because it is flexible. I do a lot of travel with work when we're not in, obviously, this pandemic. I was traveling all over Australia and America and the UK, so there is a lot of travel involved, and having that flexibility is really good because I can just go online and log into my lectures and things like that. So yeah, it's depending on the person, but online's work for me. So yeah.
So how have you managed to balance the workload? Because it is a big workload, and working full time and obviously traveling around the world as well. How have you managed to balance that and to continue pursuing it and to see it to the end?
Yeah, it's a good question because I'm actually building a house as well. So like I've been building a house for 2 years, but it is difficult. You need to just be dedicated to it and make sure that you block out time, and if you don't understand something, go back and read it again. I think sometimes I found out that not just looking at the resources they give you is the key. Go out and look at LinkedIn Learning or go out and look at YouTube videos on different things to get a different perspective. And that's helped me a lot with trying to conquer my assignments and things like that I have to do. So managing your time is really important, and being able to have support around you as well, like friends, family, partners that can, cook your dinner and, do your washing and things like that. Because when you get home from work, it's study for 3 hours and pretty much ready for bed. So yeah, you gotta have that support around you. But, it's one thing that's just, if you don't do it, if you don't throw yourself in there, then you'll never do it, I think. So you gotta really throw yourself in there to do it and just get it done. And I'm 2/3 of the way through, so I'm just not looking back now.
You're on the home stretch.
I'm on the home stretch, yeah.
So how supportive has the Australian Institute of Business been as an organisation and a learning and development arena?
Yeah, I think they've actually improved over the time I've been there. Like a lot of their online resources have been fantastic. From when I started my first subject, which was late 2017, to now, they've been really good. Like they've actually improved a lot. So there's a lot of video material on there if you're not a good reader. So, and a lot of the resources they give you, a mix of whatever you want. So the lecturers on there as well are really supportive. They get back to you within 24 hours if you have a question. And I don't know what else is out there because obviously I haven't done any other MBAs, but I think it's from my experience, I'd recommend it to anyone who was interested in doing one.
So where do you hope that this MBA will take you?
Yeah, so my ambitions have definitely changed since starting the MBA. Now I feel like I'm a lot more confident with inside business. My ambitions are to obviously, be a senior manager in some sense. That's a managing director, CEO, who knows? But that's my ambition somewhere, someplace. If it's at this company, if it's not at this company, who knows? But my MBA is giving me the confidence to be able to talk to or pretty much walk into a boardroom and be able to understand everyone in there. So it just grows your confidence. That's the biggest thing, and doing so creates more ambitious career paths. So I want to learn more. I want to push myself further now that after I've finished this MBA, I think I'll have the skill sets to do so. So yeah, it's definitely something that if you're keen on growing your career in a certain area, I wouldn't not recommend it. So
it's certainly a well-rounded course because you do get to learn, every subject basically across all business at a high level. So it's definitely something that I found beneficial. So I'm glad that because I had some sort of influence in you doing it, that you found it beneficial as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you did. You had that influence. Like definitely when you said you were doing it, I didn't really even know what it was. And I looked into it and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I want to do. But I didn't think I was qualified. And I'd scraped in there with the amount of years I've done in management. And I thought, I just want to pass the subjects. But, I've actually been doing quite well because, not getting high distinctions, but a lot better than I expected, because if you really knuckle down and want to learn something, you can. Everyone's got the ability to do something if they really try. You don't have to be... I think coming from finishing my schooling, I never thought I was the book smart. I thought I was just a sporting type of guy. But now, look, I probably wouldn't have been able to do, an intensive course at 18, 19 years old. But now, having the experience I've had and doing this at 30 years old, I've got the ability to, because I think I'm in the right mindset, and that's the key to your mindset. So, yeah, when you're a young man or a young woman, you might not have that mindset because your mind is elsewhere. But now, being a bit later on in life, your mindset's focused on knowing what you want to do, and yeah, definitely this is the key to me getting to where I want to get.
That's fantastic, and I agree. I think you can't sort of just, travel one sort of certain path. You need to be able to be out there and learning and understanding what, other people do. So I really am thankful that you're able to share this journey with me. But I have one final question for you, Ben. What would you do differently if only you knew?
Yeah, so if I knew where I was going to be now, I definitely probably would have gone to university after finishing school. I probably wouldn't have put all my eggs in the one basket of trying to play AFL football. I would have definitely diversified my skills and looked elsewhere. But, that's something that I just have to live with. And sometimes I think about it, maybe did I waste that time as a young man? But then I look back, I'm like, no, look, those life experiences were great. But yeah, look, if only I knew where I was going to be now, I probably would have set myself up a bit earlier. But look, I'm still quite young, so I think I'm on the right track. But definitely would have looked at what else are my other interests in life, not just football. So yeah, I would have done that differently.
Okay, so I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. I wish you all the best with finishing your MBA, and I hope that you let me know once that's finished and when your graduation is. And obviously with building your house, good luck with that. How many more years have you got to go with that, do you think?
Look, it's just a matter of the time I can put in. I'm doing a lot of myself. So it's, look, I should be done the next, 6 to 12 months, hopefully fully finished, but it's livable at the moment. So yeah, it's one of those renovations.
That's all you need, just for it to be livable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Ben. Really appreciate it. And if you'd like to know more about Ben, his full bio will be on our website, ifonlyyouKnew.podcast.com.au. And be sure to connect with Ben on LinkedIn and build your own network and help Ben grow his. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Christy. Appreciate it.
For more information about our guests or our show, visit ifonlyyouKnewpodcast.com.au.